Hi folks, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna, aka Neurogal MD, and I'm a neurologist who loves making videos about brain-related topics. Today I'm going to be talking about the supplement Prevagen. Prevagen is purported to improve memory and lead to a, quote, sharper mind and clearer thinking, according to the company that makes it, Quincy Bioscience. Let's explore whether this supplement is worth your money or whether it's just another run-of-the-mill expensive scam supplement. Now, I was introduced to Prevagen a couple of years ago after several of my patients asked me about it. You might have seen ads for Prevagen on TV, or you might have seen the supplement being sold at your local grocery store or drugstore. The cost ranges from $39.95 to $89.95, depending on the formulation, so it is a bit pricey. And the professional formula, which apparently contains more of the active ingredient, is more expensive, of course. Apoaequorin is the active ingredient in Prevagen, and it was patented by Quincy Bioscience. It was first discovered in jellyfish, but the Apoaequorin that's found in Prevagen is actually synthetically produced by a genetically modified bacteria. Apoaequorin is purported by Quincy Bioscience to protect brain cells by binding to excess calcium within brain tissue. Excess calcium in the nervous system is thought to contribute to brain cell damage. Abnormally elevated calcium levels in nervous tissue is often seen after brain injury from stroke or trauma, and it's thought to be seen also with age-related cognitive decline. This is because as we age, our ability to regulate calcium in the body becomes increasingly impaired. The maker of Prevagen claims that the active ingredient can protect brain cells by binding to excess calcium in the brain. There is some in vitro or petri dish evidence suggesting that Apoaequorin may be neuroprotective. An in vitro study in 2013 found that Apoaequorin helps prevent injury to hippocampal neurons that have been deprived of oxygen. And oxygen deprivation is the main mechanism of brain damage in ischemic stroke. Keep in mind that this is based on test tube experiments and not on studies actually performed in humans. There's no evidence to show that Apoaequorin can make it unscathed through the human digestive tract. When a person consumes a supplement, it usually undergoes chemical modifications in the digestive system before it's actually absorbed in the bloodstream. So digestion may completely inactivate a supplement by the time it reaches the targeted cells and organs in the body. This is why we can't infer that in vitro or petri dish studies in which drugs or supplements are directly injected into the cells work in real life. Supplements and medications need to be shown to be active after digestion in order for them to be effective. Moreover, for any supplements that are directly targeted at the brain, the supplement needs to cross something called the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is an extra barrier between the blood and the brain that makes it really difficult for molecules to reach the brain and helps to protect the brain from outside insults. For instance, toxic chemicals and infections. There's no evidence that orally consumed Apoaequorin can cross the blood-brain barrier and actually reach human brain cells. I found 3 human trials. The first study found that people taking Prevagen for 3 months exhibited improved word recall and ability to remember driving directions. The second study found that Prevagen increased the amount of sleep in people who slept less than 7 hours on average. This particular study didn't have any conclusions about Prevagen's impact on memory, and neither of these 2 studies that I mentioned were blinded or compared to placebo. These 2 measures are really important to ensure that the effects of a supplement or a medication are real. These studies also were not published in a peer-reviewed journal. Why is it important for a study to be published in a peer-reviewed journal? Because the study is scrutinized by experts in the same field. So you have that extra set of expert eyes to help ensure that the study is actually legitimate. The third study was placebo-controlled and double-blinded, which means that neither the study participants nor the researchers knew who was taking placebo and who was taking Prevagen. In the study, a group of 218 people who experienced self-reported memory problems but who did not have an official diagnosis of memory impairment took Prevagen daily for 3 months and then performed a series of computerized cognitive tests. No overall statistically significant benefits were found. However, when the researchers manipulated the groups based on baseline cognitive performance, they found a few statistically significant results in a narrow range of cognitive function. The groups were split up into those with very mild cognitive impairment, so those that scored 0 to 2 on an 8-question cognitive screen, and those with no baseline cognitive impairment, so those that scored 0 to 1 on the 8-question cognitive screen. In the group with no baseline cognitive impairment, there was a statistically significant difference between the placebo and Prevagen groups for delayed memory recall. Now, delayed recall is a type of memory that reflects a person's ability to remember information acquired from an earlier time. For example, if you're given a set of words and then asked to recall them after several minutes, that's an example of delayed recall. In the group with very mild baseline dysfunction, Prevagen was found to improve visual learning compared to placebo. Also, both placebo and Prevagen were found to improve executive function. Executive functioning is an aspect of cognition mainly controlled by the frontal lobes, and it involves the ability to switch focus, plan, organize, and integrate past experiences with current decision making. Like I said before, both placebo and Prevagen had a statistically significant effect on executive functioning. This speaks to the power of the placebo effect. Prevagen was noted to have a stronger effect on executive functioning compared to placebo, and this was statistically significant. Preliminary studies in rats suggest that the active ingredient in Prevagen is safe. Adverse reactions include those listed on this slide, and there are no known drug interactions at this time. So what is my consensus? Prevagen was found to improve cognitive function compared to placebo in a few narrow aspects of memory. There were no statistically significant effects on other important aspects of memory that are often involved in age-related memory decline, such as verbal memory, attention, and working memory. Also, I found it odd that Prevagen had no overall significant effects, and only when the researchers split up the groups based on baseline cognition did they find statistically significant effects. The article doesn't even explain how exactly the groups were split up. They just say that the no cognitive impairment group scored 0 to 1 on the cognitive screen, and the mild impairment group scored 0 to 2. To me, a score of 0 implies no cognitive impairment, so why exactly did they place some of the 0 scores in the mild impairment group? They don't explain that. Were the groups organized randomly, or were they organized in such a way that resulted in more statistically significant effects? This, in my opinion, is a major red flag. Also, keep in mind that these are the results of just one human clinical trial, and it also happened to be funded by the makers of Prevagen, which confers a conflict of interest. But then again, most nutraceutical and pharmaceutical companies fund their own research on the compounds that they patent. Also, the targeted participants in this study were only healthy individuals who had either no cognitive impairment or had mild cognitive impairment. None of them had an official diagnosis of dementia or even mild, like an official diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment. These were just self-reports based on a questionnaire. So no conclusions can be made about whether Prevagen improves memory in people with dementia. Ultimately, the data I found on Prevagen was just not robust enough, not reproducible enough to warrant the cost of the supplement, in my opinion. I think spending $40 to $90 extra on healthy organic food, limiting the consumption of processed foods, regularly exercising, and getting enough rest is probably a better option and will probably result in better overall cognition. This is Neurogal MD. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.